Bring me that print, please. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Portrait Profit Show. Man, I'm so glad you're here with me this evening. We have a great show for you this evening. My name is Jim Landers, and I help people just like you make a great income doing what they love. Each week on the Portrait Profit Show, you get tips and systems on the business side of photography designed to help you gain a mastery over marketing and sales so you can finally get what you deserve. You're in the right place. Welcome to the Portrait Profit Show. The Portrait Profit Show is brought to you by Digital Pro Lab and Landers Photography School. For Digital Pro Lab, the team over at Digital Pro Lab is fantastic. You can go to digitalprolab.com to get more information about them, but they make you look like a hero. Man, I'm glad to be working with Digital Pro Lab. By the way, Digital Pro Lab has something kind of fun coming up next week on the 22nd. Let me put that up on the screen in a different way. There we go. They're celebrating 30 years in business. So on Wednesday, November 22nd, they're inviting you to come out and visit with them from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And they have a special going on where you can get, I think it's 30% off a certain type of print. And I don't remember now which one it is, but you can also order it online. And I'll announce what that promo code is on next week's show. But you can also, and you can see on the screen right there, there's a $100 lab credit going to 5 lucky winners. So that is on Wednesday, November 22nd at Digital Pro Lab. And of course, Landers Photography School. That's me. That's what I do. So I teach photography, but I teach more on the business side now than on the photography side than I used to, because I like helping photographers make an incredible income doing what they love, using that passion to create a solid income. And for those of you that think that's not possible, or that your area it doesn't work in your area, come on, guys. It's a matter of you don't know what you don't know. You don't know enough yet. But that doesn't mean you can't, and I can help. So landersphotoschool.com, or just reach out to me direct, jim@landersphotoschool.com. Man, you guys are in for a treat today. Yeah, I say that every time we have a panel, but panels are fantastic. They rock. We have a lot of fun with them because we've got people who enjoy what it is that they do, and they're willing to share that with you and share that with others. So let me bring on our 3 panelists just to say hi, and then I'll allow them to each one at a time introduce themselves. So let's bring on all 3. We have Jil Anne, we've got DJ, and we've got Kevin, and they are supposed to just pop on the screen, and who knows why they're not. Let's figure that out. Huh. I have no idea why they're not popping up on the screen. There it goes. I guess there's a delay sometimes. Don't you love technology, guys? DJ, I think you're muted.
Hello, everyone.
There we go. So I'm glad you guys are here today. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here with us on the Portrait Profit Show this evening.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to have each one of you on one at a time. Let's start off with Jil Anne. I'm going to take Kevin off, and I'm going to take DJ off. And there we go. Jil Anne, how are you doing?
Good. Loving the fall.
Yeah. Well, I am glad that you're here. We've known each other for a number of years because of the San Antonio photography, help me.
PPGSA.
Yes, PPSA, Professional Photographers of San Antonio. I started saying San Antonio first, so I get that thrown out.
It's a mouthful.
Well, tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Oh, wow. I'm what you call a jack of all trades. I don't specialize very much. I've been a full-time professional for about 28 years, actually. It's funny, you look back and go, has it really been that long? I started out doing photojournalism essays for a local paper and swimsuit model work. That's when I lived in Florida. since, I've done both location and studio photography in lots of different styles. I'm a longtime member of PPA, sometime member of Southwest Professional Photographers when it was around, TPPA, Florida PPA, and the local one where I served 3 years as a board member. Successful competition photographer with multiple loan collection and general collection images, as well as awards on the lower levels. I'm known for my art images of classic cars and architecture work. However, I am currently branching out into dog photography, both pop-up theme sessions and regular portraits. And I work also with the Tilly Project, which is a celebration of life session that is given to people whose dogs are at the end of their life. My approach is to find the emotion in everyday objects. I don't photograph what I see, but what I feel about what I see.
That sounds interesting. I photograph what I feel about what I see. I like that. And
I'm always
you're
looking for how I feel about something. Yeah.
and so would that be part of the reason, part of the motivation to not specializing, or is there something else?
I don't specialize because I have always made my living with photography. And especially when you're first starting out, you can't. Yeah, so I just kind of did a little bit of everything. I used to do weddings. I don't do those anymore. And I say no to a lot of things now. But I never said, I only do this. I still do family portraits sometimes. I do real estate for some of my clients. I just don't advertise it. So I've done real estate for many years. But my current passion is actually dogs. A friend of mine was leaving and gave me her business, basically. And photographing dogs was amazing. It was so much less pressure. Yeah, the parents are kind of crazy, but the dogs are great. Yeah.
That's funny.
And if you get to interact with the dog and do goofy things with it, and I mean, you can't get a bad picture of a dog, So I've been enjoying it.
Nice.
I'm semi-retired now for health reasons, so I don't have the big pull to make money that I used to have. So I can indulge a little bit.
Cool. Well, thank you for being here this evening and sharing your experiences with us. All right, so I'm going to take Jil Anne off and bring on DJ. All right, DJ, you are on and muted. There we go.
Hello, everybody. Dionicio Perez, go by DJ. And so I started professionally about 23 years ago. It was more of an organic thing for me. As a child, I was the youngest of most of my cousins. And so I was the one that was volunteered to hold the camera and take the picture of everybody else. So I tended not to be in the photos when I was younger. Developed that skill into a passion. I enjoyed it. And so I started doing my first professional photos right around the early 2000s, or 99, 2000. And back then we sold by the roll. So we had 27, or how many went, 270 shots. Then I developed I got my first taste of digital, which was back in 01 or 02 at a Sony. And have worked in a variety of styles. I do corporate photography. I do wedding photography, which is very big for me. And I do major events like the Oyster Bake and the 9/11 climb, among others. It has been a great experience and certainly a passion. So I enjoy it. And I would say that, like the previous, Joel had mentioned a moment ago, don't hold yourself to one until you find what you're looking for.
Well, I guess that's good advice. At least two of you are saying it so far.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, DJ. I appreciate you. And you said you've been doing this for how long? Have you been doing photography?
About 23 years now. So I've been doing it. I started off originally taking pictures of friends' weddings.
Yeah.
Branched out in 2002 into New York. Did my first wedding in New York. Started doing other events there, runway models, high-end fashion photography in Phoenix, and some lifestyle 10-day lifestyle photo shoots in Newport Beach. So I've been able to branch out and shoot with some very, very talented individuals.
Mm-hmm. So nearly a quarter of a century. And I'm not seeing any grays there on the sides of your head, like, you know.
Oh, they're hidden back here. These cameras are great. I turned the big 44 next month. So about 2 more weeks, I'll be 44, guys. So,
nice.
Yeah, time is going very, very fast.
Nice. Thank you, DJ. I'm so glad you're here. All right. Let's bring on Kevin.
Oh.
Kevin Conlon, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Jim. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you for having me. It's great to finally talk to you and see you this way, and to be on Portrait Profits.
So how long have you been doing photography, and what is it that you enjoy about it?
I've been doing photography professionally probably for 8-9 years. Before that, I've always had a passion for photography. I love capturing emotions, different events. As Jil Anne said and DJ said, I really don't limit myself on what I like to capture. I will do, the only thing I won't do is big weddings, but I love small weddings, events, quinceañeras, sweet 16s, anywhere I can capture actual response or emotion is what drives me to it. I started off with, it's funny, I had a passion for it when I was a kid because I had that little blue play school camera with the old film. And then I slowly I stopped for a little bit, and I was like 8. I went on to go to college, and I bought a Kodak camera that was digital. And then I bought a Canon and slowly started going to Nikon, and I just haven't stopped since. I've met a lot of great people, different customers, and it's definitely taken me to a whole new level. I don't do it full time. I actually do this as a other full-time job, but it's something that I definitely love doing, and it's definitely a passion.
There's a lot of people who do photography on the side. Is this something you've felt like you've wanted to do for a long time, like growing up when you were a kid in elementary or middle school or high school, or is it something that's been a little bit more within the past few years?
I would say probably when I hit college. It was more when I wanted to do it professionally. I was the editor or co-editor-in-chief of my college newspaper at Shrine University, where I was in charge of photography and marketing. And it was great. I, got to work with different photographers, got to learn different styles with them. And of course we picked, what was the best photo to go on cover pages. And it was great. And after learning that, I came to UTSA and, really didn't work for that newspaper. But what I did do was start on the side, just doing little photo shoots here and there. And it slowly started to evolve. And now it's not stopping.
Good. Well, I've got a question for you. I'm starting the questions with you.
Okay.
And so the first question that I'm going to ask is, and I pressed the wrong button. I'm going to put it on the screen. If you could reach back to when you started, the very first job, or even just a thought of doing it, what would you tell yourself about selling? What have you learned in the meantime?
If I had to go back and tell myself something when I first started, it would be, don't be afraid to approach people. I've always been somewhat outgoing, but there was always a part of me like, okay, I'm selling a service now, not just myself. And I was a little bit scared of doing that. But now I have no issue doing that whatsoever. I can talk to people, explain to them why one photographer should be hired, or if I should be hired, go over my style, what other styles photographers offer. And that's probably the best advice I can give myself is don't be afraid to sell yourself, and don't be afraid to approach people. Everybody's different. Everybody may want something. Don't be afraid to attack it head on.
That's good advice. I mean, a lot of photographers, creatives are self-conscious. We care about what others think because we're creating something that we want them to love. and we love it. I mean, every time we create something, we have an emotional connection to it, and we want those who we're creating for to feel that. That's our base level. That's not something that we strive for. That's something that we strive to become better at. But I think it's innate in all of us. We want to do a fantastic job. We want them to receive it that way, in the same context that we were intending. But because of that self-conscious, we sometimes have difficulty at least starting out. So do you feel like in having photography as a business, it's helped you become just a better all-around person, just because of the nature of the business?
Definitely. And it's helped me in the sense that I can help mentor others and tell everybody, hey, this is where I started. This is what I've done differently. My advice to you is try it this way or try it another way. Don't just be stuck on one path. Try it. You know, what's the age-old saying? You'll never know until you try. And if you don't succeed, try again. And I think, as you said, photographers, I think part of us being creators is that we are our own worst critiques sometimes. And I think that's where we have issues, but we have to not be afraid to overcome that. We have to sit down and say, okay, I did this shoot great. What can I do better next time? What have I learned from? And that's kind of what I love.
Thank you for sharing that, Kevin. All right, so I'm going to ask that same question now. Let's see. I'm going to ask Jil Anne. So, Jil Anne, if you could reach back to when you first were starting, when you were thinking about making this, a thing, what would you tell yourself if you had the ability to do that?
Wow. Know your worth. Right. Don't be afraid to set your value and stick to it. When you're first starting out, you're almost afraid to charge. You're like, I'm going to charge this. If they don't want to pay your prices, they aren't your client, which is something that is very hard to learn, especially in the beginning. Don't feel guilty for trying to make a living. This is a job like any other, and yet a lot of times you'll get clients that try to lowball you because they don't respect what you're doing as much, and you've got to respect yourself.
Is that easier said than done when you're starting?
Oh, absolutely. I remember when I was starting, it was just job to job. You're just hoping you get the next job. So you're not going to be picky. You're just like, oh, you're going to pay me to do something. Okay. But maybe you don't charge enough, or you're too quick to give things away if they say, well, yeah, but I think if I had been more confident in myself, I could have done so much better in the beginning.
I have another follow-up question. Would you have believed yourself? Would you have followed that advice? Or would you have needed something else, a mentor or something else to help push that confidence in your direction?
Yes, a mentor is very important. This is one of the few professions that you don't have to get a degree for. Yeah. I went to school, but the school that I went to didn't have a degree program in photography. So I did what they had. And then I found a mentor who was a successful professional in the town. And I basically followed him and took his advice. And he was very free with his advice. And that is so valuable because they're in a different place than you are. They've been there, done that. They've got it all figured out, So seeing that and having the example of somebody that way can help a lot.
That makes a lot of sense. Where do you go to get a mentor, though? I mean, is that something that everyone just has and others don't know about? How do you go about that?
You got to plug into the community. I think with me, I don't even remember when it started. See, my uncle is also a professional photographer. So that kind of gave me a little bit of an edge because I already knew a little bit about how it worked. But I just connected with other photographers in the town, and we were just starting up a local chapter of Florida Professional Photographers. And so we all joined. And that was kind of the beginning, you know. If you can get into the group of your choice, you know, whether it be professional photographers or the media version of it, there's a wealth of information there and help. You know, I've never had anybody refuse to help me.
That's interesting that you say that, because you've probably seen, just like I have, people on Facebook saying that there's no one to help me. No one's ever helped me. I did this all on my own. That people that I've asked have not been willing. I've been the same way. It's not that everyone has plenty of time and can give you everything you need. They don't. But if you are willing to put yourself out there, you're going to find what you're seeking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and don't compete with each other. I mean, sometimes you're afraid to reach out because you feel like you're competing with that other person. But honestly, none of us are competing, you know, because if you take us all to the same spot and we will photograph the same thing and everybody will photograph it differently, you know.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah. So you don't have to worry about somebody stealing your business. You really don't. You know, it's a leap of faith. Yeah.
There is, in my opinion, tell me if you agree, there is plenty of business out there.
Oh, absolutely. Even with things getting kind of scary digital, I think that there's a lot of business out there. I've never worried about it. You know, I've always thought, there's room for everybody.
There is.
You know, the only thing that bothers me is when you get somebody who goes in and lowballs to the point where you know they're not making any money, but it's hurting you.
And they have their reasons.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And some of them sound somewhat valid, but they're valid from their point of view. If they would seek out a mentor, they probably would see how they aren't valid from other points of view. And so that brings us back to get that mentor that you mentioned a little while ago.
Well, here's the interesting thing about those people. You can wait them out. The people that come into the business like that, they don't last.
They don't. Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Jil Anne. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to ask that same question now of DJ. So I'll bring DJ on. So DJ, if you could reach back to when you started nearly 5 years ago, nearly a quarter of a century, what would you tell yourself?
You guys have already tapped on it, and that was the mentor, because I had family members and friends who did photography as a hobby, not really as a business, and so they had the ability to teach me little technical things, 35 millimeter and stuff like that, 110s. But what they couldn't teach me was how to manage a business. They were from little means, and not that you can't do anything with little means, but they were content in where they were at, and they weren't looking for growth. And so I definitely would put myself out there more earlier on, because Kevin brought up a great point, and that was one of my biggest fears, was I was very shy. And so I love being behind the lens because it felt like it hid me. And so I was the person, this is early on, so we didn't have the Yelp, and we didn't have, I think Google Ads may have been around, but I didn't use them until later. So I was going to the neighborhood and I was leaving papers on doorsteps. I was leaving little flyers. Back then we had Handy Andy before and HEB. And so I would leave flyers on their windshield or doors. And so I did everything I could to not really be there for that interaction. I was afraid of it. But I would say mentor, and then the interaction. You're not really selling a service. You're selling yourself. You're selling your skill set. And so that is one thing I definitely I feel that had I done that sooner, obtained my mentors sooner, that I feel like I always feel like I'm never good enough, but I would always feel like I'd be a lot further along in my skill set, and I would have achieved what I have now much sooner. So mentorship is definitely critical.
Now, it makes perfect sense, but it's in hindsight. In hindsight, it's 2020. What
Absolutely.
about someone who's starting off now? Where are they going to find that mentor?
Yeah, and that's where I didn't even know where to go.
Yeah.
Right. I joined Facebook in 2007, right? So I was already 7 years in at least doing that. And so I think now with the organizations we have and the ability to use social media to interact and connect, and look at this wonderful thing we're having right now, right? So we have technology that helps us do this. And I think going to schools and speaking to someone like yourself, Jim, those are individuals who are passionate and not afraid to share, because if you have a skill set and you have your clientele, whatever that may be, your clientele is never going to disappear. There's just too much work out there for anybody to ever get worried about it. If you're doing well and you're passionate about what you do, then you should not be concerned about anybody else. Just focus on you and you'll grow. And especially like the mentors. And Jim, you have a great, I know you like to meet with individuals and you offer time, I think 30 minutes or so or more, and it's just fantastic. Individuals like you are people who help our industry get better and help those younger ones that are getting in there start sooner and get better habits early on. So thank you for being the mentor and offering yourself out there. So appreciate it.
Thank you for saying that. I didn't expect that at all. So I appreciate that quite a lot. Before I ask you the next question, because you're the first one to get the next question, I want to encourage you guys who are watching to do me a favor. Every time you hear something that you like, especially if you're on a cell phone, you can do it multiple times. Hit that like button, hit that love button. Let us know that you are engaging in what in hearing these things that you like. But also, go over to the comments section. This is real easy. Let me know that you're watching live by entering in #live. If you're watching this as a replay, enter in #replay. But for those of you watching live, enter in #live. And as we go throughout this session this evening, share your thoughts on the subjects, the questions that we're asking. You've got opinions too. I want to hear what they are. And if you've got questions, ask them. If I feel like they're good questions, I'm going to ask them live on air. So interact with those questions. I'll be checking on them on the comments. I'll be checking on them regularly. All right. So let's ask you the next question, DJ, and let me pull that up on the screen. Let's see. What's the most effective sales tool or sales tactic that you've implemented that has directly increased your revenue? Something that someone can use tonight as they're watching.
Networking. For me, it was networking. And one of the ways that I networked was I grew up in a family of little means. And so we gave back to the community, spent a lot of time in the church, and volunteered quite a bit. And so I carried that into my passion. And so I do volunteer work to local organizations. And you're talking to individuals, and lo and behold, the person you're sitting to having a great time with is a decision maker in a company or organization who then, through your interaction, feels that you're a good fit. They've never even seen your work, but just your personality and just giving back to the community, having good conversations, and basically just networking, just being a good person, putting out good vibes. And it has definitely come back the greatest amount. I do some great events. Part of that comes from volunteering, and then from the volunteering, I met individuals, the decision makers, and then in meeting those decision makers, they typically know other decision makers, but then exponentially multiplies your business. So networking is definitely key, and also with other photographers, because there are opportunities that may come good or bad. Somebody gets sick, they can't do it. You get an opportunity to go do the event, and then now you just add it to your portfolio, whatever that may be. And so I would say that is number one for me. For my situation, networking has been extremely helpful.
So for those who, you said you didn't feel real confident at first. How did you get out and network? I mean, networking means you have to get out and you have to talk to people. You have to be around other people. If you don't have it already, how do you go about doing that?
That's where the volunteer helped, because it forced me to interact. So if I'm there and you're the team leader of, I'm doing cans or separating things, now you and I have to interact, and then I interact with another individual, and that I would say blocker or hindrance was little by little taken away. And so I found myself joking, laughing, as I learned from others, and teaching me about their culture or their business, whatever it may be. I then felt like I had talking points, because when I met somebody of a similar organization or a similar industry, even though I wasn't in it, I could ask the question, I heard this, how about that? And then all of a sudden we have a conversation going and it just goes there. And after it's like your craft, you got to practice it. And so I felt like that volunteer work allowed me to practice coming out of my shell. And little by little, I was able to do that.
So does that mean it's relatively easy, just as long as you're willing to put yourself out there, or was it a real struggle for you?
Oh, it was definitely a struggle. It's not easy at all because I prefer to be a thinker. I like to be behind the lens, right, not in front. And so I feel that it was a struggle. It's one of those scenarios where a little conversation here, a little conversation there. Now it's not a short few words. It's a little bit longer. And so you come out. It is not something that happens overnight. If it happens to you overnight, fantastic. To me, it took a little bit of time. But
so everybody's going to have a different experience, but it's still the right tool to use no matter where you're at or what your level of confidence is. It's a good tool, and it'll get to the point where it's not a struggle any longer.
It is not. And I would say it's a small world out there, and I have these sidebar conversations at these volunteer events, and long and behold, I find out they're family members or friends. So just, again, putting good vibes and things come back around.
I agree. Thank you, DJ.
Absolutely.
All right, let's ask that same question now of Kevin. All right, Kevin, what do you think? So if you, I'll put this on the screen. What do you feel is the most effective sales tool or sales tactic that you've implemented that has had a direct increase in your revenue?
Well, I'm kind of mad because DJ took mine. It really is. He couldn't have said it better. It's all about networking, and you never know who your next client's going to be. That's what I love about this business. I mean, networking, social media, those are probably the most effective sales tools that we have. I mean, as small business owners, as professionals, as we develop our craft, hone our skill, and raise ourselves up. The networking I've done this year alone, I can honestly say I have a full-time job, but my other job, my passion, photography, it's caused me to be busy every weekend because I have an event. I've networked myself and sold myself to different people like, hey, this is what I can do, what I've done. You tell me what you think. And, DJ, I mean, like I said, there's no other way to say it. It's networking is what it's all about. And as I grow to the future, that's what I'm going to continue to do, because that's what we should all be doing is, go to these free events, go to mixers, go to meetups, go to different events, take your camera out and, let people know, hey, you're here. Because what happens when someone sees you, they're going to want to hire you. I had an instance where I was on a graduation photo shoot at Hardburger Park, and it was just a small shoot for a friend of mine. I was doing it for her as a favor, and two people walked up to me and said, do you have business cards? I said, yes, definitely. I did not expect to hear from them or talk to them. They both reached out to me within a week and wanted to hire me for their graduation photos. And that is what it's all about. And it's great. It's everything that I've done in the last couple of years has led me to where I'm at right now. And I'm very happy about it.
Nice. That's great examples too. I appreciate you sharing those specific examples of what situation you were in, what happened, and what happened as a result. And not every interaction is going to result that way, but you don't need every interaction to result that way. The fact that some of them do is a clear motivator to do those kinds of things. And besides, it doesn't hurt anything. It causes you to become more confident and stronger as a person when you do.
Exactly. And I've actually networked with one business here locally, and they've hired me as their photographer for small events that they have once a month. And I've met more clients now, and it's caused me to come out of my comfort zone of, okay, what can I shoot? What can I shoot? What can't I shoot? And every time I go into a shoot now with a client, they're happy. And that's what I love.
Love it. Very good. Thank you, Kevin. All right. I am going to ask that same question now of Jil Anne. So let's bring her back. So, Jil Anne, what's the most effective sales tool or tactic that you have implemented that has you've seen a direct impact on your revenue?
Well, we all have the same answer, I think. It's networking, but you're selling yourself as much as you're selling your work. So it's about you and who you are. I did real estate photography for many years, and I realized that I was good at connecting with the homeowners. And the reason I was doing that was because I was instinctually trying to find something in common with them. And I felt like I could almost every single time, probably 98% of the time, you can find something in common with that person. And from there, the conversation just flows. And have business cards with you. I always forget. The people you talk to, they may not hire you, but they may give your name to somebody else who's going to hire you. You can get this stuff third hand even sometimes, where you give your card to somebody or have a chat with somebody and they go, hey, I know this person that I talked to the other day and I was really impressed, and give them a call. I think they can help you. That's just as important. And in the networking in person, social media has made it a lot easier. You can join groups that your clients belong to, like dog groups. They're kind of a built-in audience. So I can't, direct networking is difficult for me because I am kind of shy. So I don't go to meet and greets very often because that's just a little too much for me. But I've found that I don't have to, because you never know where it's coming from. Like the guy said, talking to somebody in the checkout line, practice doing that. I could have more fun in those conversations, and they lead where you put them. So you can always lead them towards what you do. I don't know how many times I've thought, I can insert this photography thing in here, and I do.
You guys are making a lot of sense.
We've out all there, been at it a long time, I think.
Talking, yeah, it's true. That's how I would have responded as well to that question is networking, because at first, and nobody believes me, but at first I was that self-conscious person who really couldn't get out and visit with people easily, and even when I did, it was very uncomfortable, and I may have been a good actor and they couldn't tell, but inside I was just not. But joining different groups made a big difference. I joined chambers of commerce. I joined photography groups. I joined sales leads groups. I don't know if you guys are familiar with those, but those are there's organized ones like BNI, Business Networking International. But if you are starting off, you don't probably have a budget for it because it does cost something to join, and then there's a monthly meeting fee. But there's other sales leads groups that don't cost anything. You're just meeting for breakfast or you're meeting for lunch. And the cost of the different business networking things is generally not that much. And the cost of lunch a lot of times is what it is, and you don't have to have it if you don't have the budget for it. You can just eat a sandwich on your way there, and you'd say I already ate. So exactly, but those things make a difference. And you are going to see sales come in because it is interaction between you and someone else that causes them to realize they want what it is that you sell. They aren't seeking out what it is you're doing, generally speaking. They are seeing you, talking to you, liking you, and somehow the pieces get fit together as a result of that interaction. It's just like magic.
Yeah, I mean, how many times has somebody hired somebody because they knew them?
That's right.
Yeah, it happens all the time. I see it with real estate agents constantly. They'll hire the person they know.
That's right.
So you got to be the person
Exactly
they know.
right. You guys are so smart. All right, I'm going to move on to the next question. And you guys who are viewers, if you're watching, if you've got some more questions, any follow-up questions you want to ask, go ahead and ask them. I can see that some of you have made some additional comments, and I'll address those real quick. Like Rick is saying that networking makes great sense. Rick is good about that. I don't know if he'll say that he comes across as shy or anything.
Rick.
He's not. He knows everybody. He anytime there is a photography opportunity of any sort, you can count on Rick being there, unless there's another one, and then he's having to choose between two different ones. But he's somewhere, and very active. And then let's see. You know what? Let's address a different point of view. Maybe you can help me with this, Jil Anne. PhotoRay002 says, I've joined camera groups and no one wanted to help another because they were in competition. It seems that it was a cutthroat business, and that was a group that he experienced. I don't know anything about it. I haven't talked with him about it, but clearly he experienced something that is slightly different than what the three panelists and myself have been talking about. So does this ever happen? Do you come across people who are apparently unwilling to help? Maybe they are, maybe they're not, but they come across that way.
Photographers have cliques just like any other social group. And maybe you just hit the wrong one. I will say that PPA and their trickle-down organizations, it's in their bylaws to be helpful. The whole purpose of it is to learn from each other. So they should be helping you. They don't have to give you the answers directly. They don't have to just say, here, do this. But they're supposed to help you. And that's part of the reason for the organization. And it's in their bylaws to do that, to be helpful. So if you're not getting that, that's not the organization you want to be in, obviously. Yeah. So find another one. With social media, there's always something out there.
Would you say that because of social media that finding a mentor or finding people who could just answer a question for you has become easier now than it's ever been?
Absolutely. Yeah, before you had to kind of be into a group, because your only interaction was pretty much face-to-face or on a phone, So it was harder because you had to know about that meeting so that you could go. And now, all you have to do is plug in a search, and start scrolling. I will say I've really enjoyed this Facebook group because you guys are helping each other all the time. I love it. You're putting in pictures and saying, hey, what do you guys think of this? Or you're saying, hey, I've got a job and I can't make it. Can somebody else do it for me? That's amazing. Yeah, that's the freest I've ever seen.
Nice. I like hearing that.
It's working.
Yay. All right. So, Rick wanted to say that he loves PPA. Yep. So he'll be at the next meeting.
Yeah, I probably won't, but
the next one is a panel, kind of like this. So there's 4 people in the panel, but it's one right after the other rather than all together. Like we're doing one right after the other, but there's one at a time. There's one that's speaking, and then that person's done, and the next person comes up, and then and then it's over at that point. Whereas this is the round table. The next one is an interesting one with some of the long-term members who have quite a bit of experience to share. And so,
there's a lot of
that's a good one coming up.
Yeah, I bet you one of them's Elizabeth.
Yes, isn't she fantastic?
She's fantastic. I worked for her.
Oh, you know what? I did know that. Yeah. I did. I had forgotten.
Was a production manager. She taught me so much.
That's fantastic.
Even though I wasn't her assistant, I worked in the back. You still learn so much from her. She's amazing.
I've got another question for you.
Okay.
I'll put it up on the screen. How do you handle price objections. And do you think psychology plays a role in your sales approach?
Yes, it does with me, anyways. um, Price objections are tricky, especially if you kind of agree with them, because we all understand not everybody has money. But I tell myself, they came into this knowing they were going to spend money. I wasn't deceitful with them. They saw the prices, so they know what they're getting into. So don't be afraid. Like I said earlier, don't be afraid to stick to your guns on that. What I try to do is hit them in the feels. Looking at that photo in front of them when we're going through previews and saying, how does this make you feel? And talking about those feelings and how it made them feel when they saw that photo. And then from there, you can say, wouldn't you love to have this on your wall when you walk in the room every day? Those sorts of things are pretty effective. People are, I feel kind of mean sometimes. People are vulnerable, but people buy with emotion.
Did I get your quote right?
Yeah, yep. Sounds kind of calculating, but it's true. Hit them in the feels, People buy everything that way, really. I mean,
that's a short way to say that you care and that you want people to understand what it is that you are doing and what you care about. So while you may not say this kind of a thing to a client,
you won't say it like that.
When you're talking to another photographer, it's a different thing. Same thing with anything about photography. There's a lot of things about photography that you would only talk with another photographer. For instance, when a light is too bright, you would say that's too hot. But you wouldn't talk to a high school senior girl saying words like that, even if you did have too much light on her face. So
you always want them to
say
feel
to photographers that you wouldn't say to your clients. And this is one of them, but hit them in the feels makes sense because we create a product that is emotional and luxury.
Yes.
There's, it depends on if you're doing commercial photography. Yeah, okay, maybe that's not necessarily luxury, but portrait photography is a luxury item. No one needs it. They may use the word "I need it," but they don't need portrait photography. They don't need family portraits. They don't need seniors. They don't need boudoir. They don't need kids. They don't need any of it.
Yeah,
they
luxury.
Really want it. It's a luxury emotional item. And so they are on the emotional side of their mind. So keep them there.
Yeah. Create that need.
That's what its purpose. That's what our purpose is. And so leave it there.
And it hits me
in
the feels
too. One of my mentors said, never mention a dimension when it comes to prints. Never mention a dimension.
We've all got.
Don't talk about price, but you have to talk about price. So there are times when you've got to pull them out of that emotional side, but leave that on the minor side of the conversation.
Yeah, that's not the
leave
point.
It where it belongs.
That's the outcome, but that's not the point. The point is you wanted this thing that's in front of you, And if they feel that way, I'm pleased because I made them feel the way I wanted them to feel. Because I was thinking about feelings when I was taking it. So it's happy for both of us. But yeah. Well, it is. I'm always pleased. I don't know about you. You were saying earlier about how you feel like you have to leave a little piece of yourself in there, and that's true. You feel like you have that tiny little piece of yourself in what you've done.
It's your baby. You created it. It's your baby.
Yeah, at least that image is. Sure. Yeah, and it'll always be yours. Yeah. So you keep your piece of it. Yet you want them to feel specific things. And sometimes you can manipulate that so that you do things that better capture what they're looking for.
There you go. Thank you for that, Jil Anne. I'm going to ask that same question now of DJ. So let's bring him on. So DJ, what's your opinion on this? I mean, so this question may seem like an odd one to some, but how do you deal with price objections? And do you feel like psychology plays a role in your sales approach? And I think you may be muted.
You guys had me laughing earlier. I was trying not to be caught on the audio there. So it definitely plays a role. And so the psyche goes two ways. And one is, do I want them as a client, right? Because if they say, if there's someone who may be a little difficult to work with, I may give a price that may be, okay, I will tolerate that for this price. And if they say no, then, hey, you know what? That's okay. Sometimes you're not my client. That's okay. Psyche does play a role. I look to see, well, what is the objection? Is it the cost? Is it the location? Is it time? Is it me that they don't like, right? Maybe they like my product, but they don't like me. So I definitely I kind of pick with little questions about what it is that does that. And I try to push them toward the sale. And the reason why is because sometimes it's just being nervous. They see a price that you may have there, and it's not something they commonly do. Now they're spending X amount for the event. You're part of that event, or let's say it's the portrait too for the family. It's absolutely luxury. You have a family that wants to drive to Corpus, or a family that wants to drive somewhere. There's a lot of costs associated with that, plus your costs. But absolutely, the emotional impact is key, because for them, when they look at this photo, I want them to realize that it's them. We captured them. We had fun times. There's memories created while we're doing these photos, so they remember me as an individual who made it fun, and that the experience wasn't just a basic experience. It was an exceptional experience, one that which they'll remember and appreciate, with stories to tell, hopefully, good stories. But absolutely it does. You have to hit them in the feels. I mean, you said it way, I'm not going to repeat everything she said, but she said a great job with that, because it is emotionally driven. This, especially if it has portraitures with grandma, because we know grandma is not feeling well. And so these are last photos for them. And so these are keepsakes. And I've found that individuals, when you do go toward the emotional side, see the value that you bring, long-term value that you bring, and certainly the experience of that.
Are you doing something active to improve their experience with you?
I do. For me, depending if it's during the sale or at the actual shoot, most individuals are not comfortable with being in front of the lens, because you do have those Instagrammers, right? They got the angle that they shoot at all the time. Those tend to be the younger generation, and they're comfortable in front of the lens. But then you have mom, dad, maybe grandma, who in their generation didn't smile, right? Many of them didn't have good teeth, and so they typically didn't smile. And so what I do, I try to find a way to make them laugh, have some fun. And what I do find is telling them not to smile usually makes them smile, right? So now don't smile, and all of a sudden they just have this, it's like don't push a red button, and all of a sudden they just can't control themselves, right? And then if they have a sibling, you get them involved, or you get dad to dance behind you, right, for the little ones, and all of a sudden you get these organic, candid shots of portraiture, which are beautiful, and for them, that's how they remember their younger children. So I try to be playful and energetic, and this is again me coming out of my shell and finding ways to have fun, interact, and get out of my shell, because that was my initial hindrance I had in the beginning. But I do enjoy to have fun, love getting them to laugh. And if anything, if we're at the Pearl, ice cream will definitely get people to relax. So if you guys are there.
Love it. Thank you, DJ. I appreciate that.
Really.
All right, let's ask that same question now of Kevin. So Kevin, what do you think?
What do I think? Well, psychology definitely plays a factor, because part of what we do is we have to have empathy. We have to be able to read people and what they want. And whenever I have a photo shoot, whether it's at the Pearl, whether it's here at my home, because I have a small studio that I created, I want to create that wow experience. I want my clients to feel comfortable. I want them to relax. I want them to be themselves, because as DJ said, it's about a natural smile. And when it comes to price objections, I mean, I think I was guilty of it. I think we all are when we start out about what we should charge. But you said it, you hit the nail on the head. Photography is a luxury, and portrait photography is a big luxury. And, sometimes There was one year when I decided to give back. It was, I think, a year and a half ago, where I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to take 5 graduates and I'm going to do their portraits. It's a standard graduation portrait, my own cost. Nobody wanted to do it. I'm like, okay, but that's a choice that I did for myself. But now, as I develop myself, taking on a mentor, have people I've mentored, I've realized, you know what? If someone is comfortable with me and I'm able to read them well and give them my price, they're going to want to hire me. And a lot of times my clients, they've told me after the event that I've done, whether it's a small wedding or a quince, they said, we hired you because of your personality. You were able to relate to us. You were able to connect with us. And that's why I keep going. And that's something that I love about what I do.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, it is you're interacting with people they are liking or not. If they don't like you, well, there's plenty of others who do, and so that's why there's going to be plenty of business. So I'm glad that you're doing that, and that's interesting. You commented about you offered to do something for free and didn't have a response to it. Someone who's not done that before, who's thought about that, is thinking, what? How's that possible? I was thinking that the reason people weren't hiring me because my price was too high. That's not the reason, guys. Do you know there's a photographer here in San Antonio who has an average sale over $15,000 per portrait session?
Oh, wow.
So price is not the problem. That's one easy thing that we can all get behind and say is the reason, because it's something, if you were to, there's not a whole lot of people in San Antonio that know anything about a yacht. So if you called the yacht store, I don't know enough about yachts, but you call the yacht store, and what's the only question you know how to ask? How much? So therefore, it's a question. It's a universal question. We all know. So therefore, because they asked that question and didn't like the response, we assume that that's the reason why they don't want to do business with us. No, that was the only thing they knew how to ask. There are a lot of other variables that play a role here. How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, I definitely agree with that. And it's, price is, I think anybody who's watching this podcast or anybody who's watching this right now, this live stream, can say, what price point should I be at? And that's something that you have to look into consideration. I can say that I'm blessed right now because my price point, people, I won't say what it is because everybody's different. People would probably say, are you serious? That's what you charge? But it's because I don't do this full time. And this is, my part-time job. This is my passion. And I would rather, make people smile and capture that emotion than make money. Yes, do I like to make money with photography? Oh, heck yeah. I think everybody would love to do it, but I don't.
There's probably a lens or two out there that you'd like to buy.
Exactly. There's a lens or two I would love to buy, equipment I would love to buy, but I know that what I do, since I do this as a side secondary job, a source of income, I know that, hey, I can do this here or I can not do it here, but it's what I like to do and it's what I do to give back. And I've seen the Facebook groups, and I'm more than happy to say, you know what, I'm not comfortable doing this kind of portrait. Why don't you reach out to this person over here? I've done it countless times with DJ, with other photographers like Amber Rodriguez, who specializes in maternity and newborn. I'm like, you know what, Amber, here you go. I have a client who wants newborn. I'm not comfortable. You're certified. You take this client. And that's how we help each other out as a community. And, to go back to, Photo Roy's, comment about, sometimes people aren't helping. It's absolutely right. What Jil Anne said is it's not the right group for you. And unfortunately, there are some photographers out there that will, won't help you, but don't ever be afraid to ask. I don't know if I can speak for the panel, but don't ever be afraid to reach out to me and say, hey, Kevin, I saw you on the panel. Help me out. What do you think I should do here? And I'm happy to do it because why? People, I don't know if you knew this, Jim, but DJ, he's actually one of my mentors. It's because of him I got better with photography. He said, do this here and try this here. Now, as far as pricing goes, it is unfortunate that there are some photographers out there that do, that want to try to beat you with the price point, but their prices don't really reflect their work. the only thing I always do for customers is say, okay, look, you're paying for my service, but you're also paying for me to capture your day, to capture your emotion. And that's what I intend to do. And I've been accused of being called a shadow because you can't get rid of me. I just appear out of nowhere sometimes and snap that perfect pose. And it's like I said, I can say it till I'm blue in the face. I love doing it. It really is a passion. It can be an expensive passion, but it's what I love to do in the end. And I think that's how I want to be remembered in the future when my time passes.
All right. So I've got the next question for you.
Okay.
What software tools or systems could you not live without? Are you using something that helps you out online? Are you using a calendar or using a booking program? Or sometimes with part-time smaller businesses, they don't have any of that. So what do you have?
So, I mean, I could not live. So honestly, I could not live without Zenfolio because they are, I mean, if you're a photographer starting out and you want a good website, Zenfolio to me is the best because they have that affordable, price point where you can start off, have a portfolio, get yourself established. I can't live without Facebook and Instagram because we are content creators as photographers, so to speak. We are creating an image and people are going to either love your images or they're going to hate them. But people can reach out to you and say, hey, I love what you did here for this person. Can you do that for me? Or make it my own. Obviously, I can't live without our newest software, which I would say is probably, money receiving. A lot of people don't deal with cash anymore, or they don't deal with checks. I can't live without Cash App, Venmo, or Zelle, or even PayPal, because that is a way for us to get paid now. And, I have a lot of clients who will reach out to me and say, hey, I don't have cash. Do you have Venmo? Absolutely. Here's my Venmo. And, it's with that, I can separate Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, have the ability to separate, what is for your business, what is for personal. So those are definitely some softwares I can't live without. And at the end of the day, I can't live without Photoshop because I'll use Photoshop if I can, if I feel that an image warrants it, and to make my client happy. And one little blemish can go away. Speaking of, I have one here. I need it to go away, but it's all right.
That's fun. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate you sharing those with me. You're with us. All right, I'm going to ask that same question now of Jil Anne. So, Jil Anne, what software tools or systems do you feel you just can't live without?
Photoshop. That's the obvious answer. I'm kind of a low-tech person, so I do the minimum. However, especially with the dogs, I've had a need for more than I have been using. I use Square. Square has been good to me. I also will use my website. I have a website through GoDaddy. It's down at the present moment because I just tore it down and I'm revamping it, and I haven't got the store up yet, but I've got the galleries, so I could pop it live anytime. And they now do stores. They do scheduling. They will even do posting, social media posting for you if you want that in your program. And that's all really helpful to me. I've realized over the years that now social media is where I get all my advertising. I don't bother with much else anymore because everybody's coming from either in-person networking or social media.
Well, that sounds good. So Square, your website, and social media. Those are the main ones you can't live without. Is that right?
No, can't live without them. I can't imagine doing business without any of those.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing those with us, Jil Anne. All right, I'm going to ask that same question now of DJ. So let's bring him on. So DJ, can you tell us what software tools or systems that you just can't live without?
Yeah, so breaking it down to different parts of it, social media is big for us in terms of I'm terrible about posting. I should be, but I still draw on quite a few people which send me questions. Social media is great. When it comes to showing your galleries and what you can do, Zenfolio is one that I fell in love with back in 2011, I think 2010 or 11 when I first got into Zenfolio. They have an email blast system. They also have their scheduling system. They have a new AI which can help you call your images. Unlimited storage. And so it's got quite a few things that you can use, and the ability, if you want to code out your own page, you can do it too. So it's a pretty flexible program. And it's typically, depending which one you get, it's under $300 a year. The other thing too is that'll be just for the gallery aspect of it. Sales. Oh, give me 1 second here. I forgot to turn one light off. That was my fault. Sorry, guys. But going back to like sales, pandemic definitely made us take a methodological or definitely a different direction. People were not taking cash. They weren't handling cash, especially coins, right? And so that's when Cash App and Zenfolio, Venmo, PayPal has been around for a while. So I took PayPal since the early 2000s. Later on came Square. I started using Square. I think it's around 2015. So Square, as far as handling transactions, invoices, and monitoring metrics. What are your sales for the month and things of that nature, which is good for that. Post-production, you're looking at, for me, Lightroom. I don't use Photoshop in my images. For those who know me directly, I'm a big capture it guy, but Photoshop definitely has its place in post-production. I tend to use just Lightroom only is where I'm at. And then I'll push that out to Zenfolio from there. But those are the ones I definitely can't live without. Networking on the social media side, showing your galleries being Zenfolio, closing the deal, which is where PDF. Does anybody use Acrobat? Acrobat's also a part of Acrobat owns Adobe, which is fantastic because you can send out emails with documents or invoices. I'm sorry, you can do invoices too, but you also send out contracts, which they can use their cell phone, fill their paperwork out entirely on their cell phone, save it, send it right back to you. It'll email to you automatically, so you can automate some of your processes as well. That's Adobe Acrobat, which is also the maker of Lightroom and Photoshop. So Acrobat Pro gives you a lot of power to do with your workflow. And then of course, afterward you have your cash systems, which are the Square, Zenfolio, PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App. Those are all great things that for sure I need to have to function. I cannot live without those for sure.
Well, that's several. So I appreciate you sharing those. Do you have any that are any CRM programs, client relationship management type programs?
Well, the Zenfolio has one built into it, which is what I've used. So you can track them there. Now the CRM that is built into there is not as thorough as external CRM sources. You can use, I think there was, I used to have one on my accounting software. I'm drawing a blank what the name was, but those get a little more in depth. Those would do automated emails. Now there's actually some CRM systems that are built for realtors that are very good for photography because it'll send out automated emails. It'll follow up with them. And they're actually built for realtors. I'm drawing a blank on the name of it.
Why realtor ones and not one of the photography ones? There's probably hundreds of CRMs that are built for photographers.
There are, and I would say I don't know all the ins and outs of some of the photography ones, but the realtor ones you can set up, and I could be wrong. These functionalities may exist in those other ones. Automated text messages, so a text message comes in, automatically responds back. You can program certain responses, so if they send a text message about their account, it'll actually respond back with their invoices, or not invoice, their balances or certain questions that you set up in there. I know of those because I have a few friends who are photographers who use them. They use realtor CRMs versus photography, and they've been able to build on that quite a bit. But I also have not dug into the more current CRM that exists. I do realize that they are coming out. I just have not dug into the more recent ones.
There's a bunch. You're and that was a real question. I hadn't heard of anyone using something that's not in our industry because the CRMs that are built for photographers have things in it that are for photographers, like sessions and equipment. And if there's more than one person, how do you make sure that the photographer has the equipment that they need? And so things that are very specific to photographers are in the photographer CRMs. The first time I used a photographer CRM was in 1997. So they've been around a long time.
Oh, wow.
Successware. But it's not one that I recommend anymore. But there's several of them that are out there, and in I think one or two of my shows I've gone over them. Just my choices of my top 5 favorites, and so I think it's pretty interesting about using something else.
Yeah, it is, and it may be a scenario where they found it that worked how their flow works, and they just stuck with it. But yeah, I'm definitely interested in picking your brain and getting more insight into that, because I'm always forever a student. I feel anybody can teach me, so I'll take any education and knowledge and nuggets. Yeah.
Of course, there's the AI programs that are relatively new. I mean, AI has been around longer than most of us have realized it, but I think everyone has been noticing it, at least within the last year. And there are programs that can cull and edit your photographs now. So you go photograph a wedding, and what used to take 10, 20 hours now takes 10, 20 minutes with programs like Filter Pixel. You have to train those. You have to tell it what it is that you like so that it can get it right. It can't read your mind. But once you've trained it, and the training is easy, especially if you've already done some editing, because then you just upload your previous jobs that you've done, and it can learn from what you've done before in Adobe Lightroom. So training it is easy. It takes a little bit of time, but it's like 24 hours. So a very small period of time. But compared to 10 to 20 hours down to 10 to 20 minutes, it's a no-brainer. There's really no reason why we shouldn't be, those who have a lot of photographs to go through don't take advantage of time-saving things like that. You can go from photographing a wedding on Saturday and spending your entire day Sunday going through it to being able to spend time with your family on Sunday because of these new AI programs.
And you're right. Lightroom came out with their AI, which is what I actually use also, which you can pull out persons, individuals, background, sky on those, which is great. Because before, having to use the lasso on that took forever. Now it's a few seconds.
Yeah.
And I purposely this year upgraded to a newer Alienware laptop in order to have the computational power to take full advantage of the AI. Right.
Very cool.
And so it's great. Photoshop has Photoshop Beta now, right, which is great, where you can circle an area and tell it a command to what you're looking for. It adds it pretty seamlessly in what little things I played around with. Then, of course, like I said, Zenfodio has their AI calling software now, which they came out with over the summer, which is really nice. It rates them, and it'll actually fully call them if you let it. So it's great. I think AI is going to be a great addition to our industry, and I'm looking forward to see where it goes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I've got the next question for you.
Yes.
Let's see. What sales metrics, and let me put this on the screen. What sales metrics do you use to track how do you use them?
So sales metric, you can get some like revenue sales metrics. You can use like Square, which is my most dominant one for invoicing and other items. Is great. Every day it tells you your sales for the day, but you could also look back month, yearly, and you can start seeing your ebbs and flows. And you also see your yearly cycle. So you could look back, let's say 22, 21, 20. I think you go back 5 years on there. And you could actually see your revenue cycle for the year, which means that if you see you're dropping off every December, that there's an opportunity there every December for you to do something, right? Whether it's something you worked out and people are just not paying because the holidays, or is it that you're in the holidays and you're not making sales? So that's a good way to do it. And also helps to hold you accountable. If you're not doing well in one particular month, and it's the month that you should be doing well, then now you can hold yourself accountable for those years. Or there's a reason for it. Maybe it's the time you take your vacation. That's definitely the metric I look at. The other two is holding myself accountable to personal metrics, which is when I take photos, how can I take the photo at a high enough level that it reduces my post-production? And so that is another metric I look at, is that if I can do, let's say, a wedding and then finish my wedding post-production in 2 hours, 3 hours, that feels great. If I'm spending 10, 20 or more hours on that wedding post-production, well, then my metric for myself is very poor, because I'm looking at an 8-hour wedding and I spend 16 hours doing it. Technically, I made a third of what I charged, right? The time is money in that respect. And then the other part of it too is that for every hour that you spend post-production or not being properly prepared for your event is an hour away from your family. It's an hour I can't get back in my children's childhood. It's an hour that I don't get the opportunity to have dinner with my wife. So those are other metrics, but that's a time metric. That's a life metric. So those are good things to have, guys, is to hold yourself accountable metric wise, not only financially, but also time wise.
Those are good. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's obviously that the show is talking about the business side of photography, but it goes hand in hand with the things that you value. And you brought up kids, you brought up your wife, the time that you spend with them. I think those are above what it is we're talking about here, but it's because of what we're talking about here that makes that even more powerful, or more of what it is that you want it to be. Yes. That's, in fact, when I'm starting with a new coaching client, one of the things we do is not talk about photography. It's talk about their life. What does ideal look like in their life? And that's we've got this roadmap. There's all kinds of things on it that are interesting that we could go see. But if we just spend our time wandering on good roads, then how do we get to where we're going? No, we've got to define where we're going. So if we're in San Antonio, Texas, and I know not everybody watching is from San Antonio, but that's where DJ and I are, and the other two panelists. And so if you're in San Antonio and your goal is to get to Dallas, Texas. Now, if you've never been to Texas before, that's about a 4 or 5 hour drive. Depends on how fast you drive. And traffic on 35, maybe, an extra 2 hours. You never know what you're going to get on 35. But you've defined where you're going. So therefore, you know when you want to be there. So that determines the time you're going to leave. It determines the path you're going to take. If you know that there's some bad traffic on that road, maybe there's another road that you can take. And so you take that detour, that deviation. But it is only knowing what you want as an end result that caused you to be able to reach that success. How is your photography business any different? It's the same thing. Define what you want in your ideal life in all the different categories that are important to you, and then find the path that causes you to get there, and then start working on your business stuff. Some of you are jumping straight into how do I get more sales. If you haven't defined what it is you want out of this life, you haven't gotten to that step yet.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
No, I think that's great. That's perfect, because if you're in it for the money, then I believe you're in it for the wrong reasons, right? So if you have the passion, you work to master your craft, the money will follow. And so people are willing to pay X amount of dollars per hour just to have you there to take their shots. And so I would say, find out where you're going, build that roadmap, develop it. I didn't have it in the beginning. And so I felt like I was scattered everywhere to the wind, so to say, until I finally zeroed in on what was I trying to achieve. And in this case was to master my craft. And as I mastered it, sales came with it. And it just makes it that much easier, because when you produce a product that somebody loves and appreciates and then shares with others, it's helpful. Because if a client is one who is a high net clientele or a celebrity, when you get into that type of clientele, they love to work with whoever's already in the environment. If they trust Jim came in, I heard these great things about Jim. He took care of my sister, my neighbor. He did a fantastic job. Guess who the neighbor's probably going to recommend, or who they're going to recommend? They're going to recommend Jim, because he already established himself. He already showed a level of expertise, or maybe sometimes it's not even your expertise. It's how well you interacted with them. You sold them on your service yourself. And the photos may not be up there where they want them to be, but they're acceptable considering the experience they had. And then, of course, as you get more, you build and you get better, and they pay more.
Mm-hmm. A lot of variables, huh?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, DJ. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right, let's bring on Kevin. Hey, Kevin. So we're getting close to the end of our time, and so I'm going to ask you to answer this question, but also share with us your closing thoughts, and I'll ask the same of Jil Anne, and then I'll come back around to DJ. But so the question that we're doing right now, you're welcome to spend some time with and do some closing thoughts. So, what sales metrics are you using? How do you track what you do?
So I'm actually very old school. I still use Excel or actually I'm an Apple user. I use numbers, and I use Excel as well, and to track my sales, to track what I spent, because it helps me out in the long run. And of course, on iPhone I use my notes, because I like to say, okay, as much as I like to put things in a calendar, I can go to my notes and say, okay, what do I have on November 1st? I've got nothing. What do I have on November 3rd? I've got this photo shoot. And of course, I put down, okay, what have they paid? They've paid this deposit to reserve me, and this is their balance it's due. That way, when I go, nothing comes as a shock. Like, okay, it's done. If it's a big event, I will put it in my calendar and say, okay, this is going to be a 6-hour, 8-hour event. That way I know, okay, what do I have to do in order to, not stress out the day of. So as far as sales metrics, yeah, I'm almost quite use Excel numbers. And, what I do love about Cash App, Venmo, and Zelle is now they actually give you at the end of a month is they send you an email with what you've made. And honestly, I don't even use Cash App or Venmo for anything but my business now, because it's so easy. I know, okay, well, do I have to add everything up? No, I get an email at the end of the month saying, well, your Venmo amount for this month was this much. So helps me out in the long run, especially when it comes time for tax season.
That makes sense. Do you have any closing thoughts for us this evening?
Closing thoughts, I guess the only thing I would tell anybody who's watching this and anybody who's been listening is, get a mentor. A mentor should never degrade you. A mentor should never put you down. A mentor is somebody who's going to be there for you and help you achieve wonders. And that mentor is also someone who's going to also be open to your critique of them. As I said, DJ is one of my mentors, and he's helped me out in the long run. And I've also helped him, as far as what I think. I've established a great group of friends through the photography community where I can say, hey, I like this, but try this. And they're like, oh, that was perfect. And, when it comes to others who are negative, that brings down your craft, don't pay attention to the haters. There's always going to be haters. There's always going to be people that will say, oh, you should learn and do it yourself. No, as a community, we should help each other. We should be there for each other. And, when it comes to customer service, I had a conversation the other day with a friend of mine, and, he says, I worry about customer service going away. I've always been, the customer is always right. Now, if there's something that you cannot do for the customer because you just can't do it, then you've maxed out everything that you've tried, and there's nothing more you can do. But don't ever give up. That's the hindsight of it. And, if a customer doesn't pick you, maybe they weren't your right customer. But don't be afraid to help them out. If they ask you about a photographer, or if they ask you, give them your honest opinion and say, oh, this person's great. Don't put anybody down. Unless, unfortunately, within our community, there are some people out there that are scammers. If someone asks you about a certain scammer or anybody in the group or another photographer, and if they are a scammer, the old expression is see something, say something. And, that's what I definitely have to say. But, whatever you decide as a photographer, own your business and own your craft. And do it for the love of capturing memories. Money will come, but just, be yourself, be authentic, and I'm sure that the customers will stay with you in the long run. And they'll tell their friends, who will tell their friends. And before you know it, you'll be booking, and people will want to stay with you. So, thank you, Jim.
There you go. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that those closing thoughts and the answer to that final question. Thank you for your time and your caring about other photographers. And I like your philosophy on have a mentor, be a mentor, because I believe we are both, and we are most effective when we are both. And you've shared that that you play both roles, and that's just what happens. I think we all play both roles if we are open-minded and willing to help out others and be and willing to improve ourselves. Photography is one of those types of subjects that you'll never know it all. It is not possible. Just take the subject of photography alone. There is no one who knows it all. It's not possible to know it all. There are too many variables. And when it comes to the business side, it's not as extreme as the photography side, but you'll never know it all on the business side either. It's not possible. So, the fact that I've been doing photography for a number of years and have a degree in photography and have done a ton of stuff and I've worked with over 4,000 San Antonio photographers. I've built a lot of knowledge. I know quite a few people, but I learn something new every day because I put myself in a position to learn something new every day. And I don't think I'll ever stop because there's too much stuff to learn. As long as I keep that open mind, that I still have things to learn. And they come from interesting sources, different sources. It could be someone who started yesterday, who's given me a new perspective I didn't even think of before, to someone who's been doing it longer than me. I've got mentors who've been doing it for 50 years. And so I've only been doing it. Well, the first job I ever photographed that I got paid was in 1983. And I'm hoping you say, oh, you don't look old enough for that. Well, the first job I photographed was in 1983. I got my degree in photography in 1991, but there is a huge amount of stuff to learn, and that should never intimidate anyone. That should excite everyone who has an interest in this field, because it's never ending. You don't get to a wall unless you allow yourself to hit it. There's always more. And if you have hit your own personal wall, that's where what you're talking about, your mentor, comes into play. You just reach out, because there's someone, and mentoring could be someone who's just answering a question. It could be a one-time thing, but we're talking about mentoring as in someone who you can call on multiple times throughout your career. And Amber Rodriguez does that well. I'm glad you brought her up a little while ago. She's one of the 4,000 students that I've worked with. And she's probably watched a minimum of 100 of these Portrait Prophet shows. And so, she's great, and I'm glad you brought her up. So thank you, Kevin, for all your thoughts and comments.
Definitely. And DJ, like I said, he's one of the great mentors that I've had. And he's actually said, hey, Kevin, come to this event and photograph. And then when I organized an event, just as a meet and greet, he came and he showed people, different photographers, how to do lighting, how to use strobes. And, the faces everybody made, Jim, afterwards, it was complete awe of learning something new. And they were happy and they loved it. So
awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Kevin.
Thank you.
Right. I'm going to bring on Jil Anne. So, Jil Anne, can you tell us a little bit about your metrics, how you track, and then some closing thoughts for this evening?
For the metrics, I kind of do it without technology. What I do, first of all, to make sure that I'm making my money, I set my prices so that I'm happy with the minimum that I've set. In other words, I think how X amount of dollars, how much do I want to make out of the average session to make it worth it to me? X amount of dollars. And then I will have, between the sitting fee and the packages, they will add up to that amount, so that I always know that I'm making my minimum, that I'm always making a profit. As far as planning, I learned from Elizabeth to set aside time and plan your whole year. And so January, which is typically our slowest month, I sit down and plan the year. And I go back and I look at my notes, because I make notes after every session, and I go, okay, what worked? What didn't? What do I need to change? Is this product working for me? How about this one? How are the prices looking? And I adjust things as I go for the next year. And then I plan, like, for instance, doing the pop-ups for the dogs. Those are themes. So I'll plan my themes for the year. And I'll go ahead and get my props and everything ready so that it's all done. And that can take a lot of the pressure off for the rest of the year.
That is good advice. Planning makes a big difference in reaching our how we've defined success, because we've got to define where we're going, or we just wander through a bunch of good things. And it may feel good, and everyone around you may notice that you're doing good things and comment on it, and so that reinforces that we're doing good things, but it isn't right things. The difference between a successful photographer and a struggling photographer is doing the things that are right, not the things that are good. The path that leads to struggle is filled with good things.
Yeah.
The path that leads to your success, and that's however you've defined it, because we all define it differently. The path that leads to your success has to be, you have to define what it is that you think success is, so that you can find out what the right things are to do. So don't be asking someone else, what lens should I buy? What marketing tools should I be using? Define what you want first, and then those tools become obvious. For instance, if you want to hang up a photograph on the wall, the tool becomes obvious. You need a nail and a hammer. But if you didn't know, I just want something that makes me feel good, how would you have come to the conclusion nail and hammer? You wouldn't have come to that conclusion, because you're wandering through good things. Maybe that's snickerdoodle cookies. Well, that's good, but that won't help you get the photograph on the wall, because you haven't defined that's what you want as success. Now, I know those are crazy examples, but planning plays a role in success. And the only way you can plan is by having defined what it is that you want. And that's part of the planning process. Thank you for bringing that up, Jil Anne. And thank you for being here this evening on the Portrait Profit Show and sharing your thoughts, your experiences, and your quips and quotes.
It's been fun.
I'm glad to hear that. All right. Any last thoughts before I bring on DJ?
Yeah. Have your priorities straight. Decide whether you're going to be a real business or a hobby business. And if you're going to be a real business, then you need to do some planning, and you need to make your numbers work. Plan your yearly goals, marketing, pricing, etc. Make notes on how things turn out. I make notes after every session. What worked? Nice. What didn't? What would I change next time? What's an idea I had for the next time? And then use those. I mean, those are invaluable, especially if you only do something once a year, say Santa sessions. You want to make those notes so that when time Santa comes around again, you're not going, oh, what was it I was thinking of last year? That's important. And be honest with yourself and where you are. If you're showing your work, then the clients that are looking for you will contact you. You're not going to get a client who asks for more than you're showing. Does that make sense? Depending on where you are in the ladder. In other words,
sell what you show.
Yeah. I mean, like, for instance, the work that I show isn't going to get the clients that Elizabeth does. It's obvious, so they're not going to be calling me, so just know that, show your best, and you'll get the clients that match you.
Nice. Thank you so much, Jil Anne. You rock.
So do you.
Thank you.
No, seriously, this is fantastic. I just, every day I see people helping each other out.
Yeah.
And that's just amazing.
I love it. Well, thank you. And let's hear DJ's closing thoughts. So, DJ, give us your closing thoughts for today. I mean, the panel was on tips to improve sales. Obviously, it touches lots of different parts of our lives. But what are some closing thoughts you have for today?
Well, I would definitely say, we touched about the mentorship and other items, but I would say when it comes to sales, you're selling yourself, you're selling a product. Don't be afraid to try to do family portraiture versus modeling or some other styles. Mix it up. You may have a passion that you don't know that exists. Try it. Are you going to fail? Yes. Are you going to take terrible photos? Yes. I took plenty. And so just realize that, nowadays with digital photography, you could make those changes really quick. Be forever a student. I've been in the industry for such a long time now, but I don't feel like I know anything. I still feel like there's so much out there, just like what Jim mentioned earlier. And he had a great point. Beginners will ask you a question that you hadn't thought of because they came from a different background, right? So they got a different perspective. Absorb those. And also too, when you're with your clients, and I think somebody said, listen to your customer here, David mentioned that. And that plays a big role because sometimes they're telling you what they want. And that's easy because now instead of guessing, they just told you what it is, right? And most importantly, have fun. If you're having fun, they're having fun, the sales will produce themselves. Network, enjoy your passion, work on your craft as much as possible that your life allows you. And don't feel like you have to take pictures of people. Like some of the examples I've given some of my mentees is that go to the zoo, right? There's plenty of subjects there for you to photograph and you can't control them. And so it gives you an opportunity to test your skills and learn your lens camera combo. So, but forever a student, get a mentor, kind of define where you're going so you have an idea to set goals for yourself. And if you don't know enough to know what you don't know, that's okay. We all started there. And just because you don't know it, there's nothing wrong with that. You'll get there. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. We're here. There are plenty of us out here that are good people to be happy to share.
Yes, I second that motion. Yeah, DJ, that's fantastic. I agreed. This show is about portrait work, but that's not a limiting thing. That's a focused thing. I totally agree with that suggestion of get out and do different things, especially things that are out of your comfort zone. And, not that going to the zoo is an example of getting outside of your comfort zone, but it may be, that portrait of that lion, that giraffe, that gorilla, whatever it is that has caught your attention. You can apply what you know and what you've learned with photographing those animals. You don't have any control over them. You can't tell them, turn your head a little bit to the left or to the right.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have that kind of control with them, but you don't even have control over lighting, because you're not going to be able to put your strobes in there with them. Sorry, you're going to have to deal with the ambient lighting, whatever it is that you find yourself in. And so that gives you some interesting challenges that you're going to have to work with, and it's going to be fun.
Agreed.
You're a good guy. All of our panelists tonight are awesome people. I'm going to bring back Jil Anne, and I think we've lost the connection with Kevin because I don't see him.
No.
So sorry, Kevin. But you guys are fantastic. I really appreciate you. You're investing your time. You have a life, so therefore you have sacrificed something to be able to be here this evening to share your thoughts with other photographers. And that is something that I want to give you a big thank you for, because you are awesome for doing that kind of thing. And you probably do it all the time. I mean, when I called and asked you guys, or when I reached out to you guys and asked if you'd like to do this, you were very quick to say yes. I definitely, in one way or another, you're saying, I love helping other photographers. I want to be a part of anything that fits that description. And so it was very easy to get you guys on board and on the show to share your thoughts. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Oh yeah, anytime. Sorry about the lighting. I have no idea why it turned out like this, but
so because we're with photographers, I could say that you're looking a little hot.
Well, yes.
And
I
we
am.
all would
That's
know
right.
what that means.
Yep.
Power is
Right.
Very hot. I know. And I keep changing things around when
That'd
I'm
be
off
an HR
camera.
comment somewhere else.
Exactly.
But I would know exactly what you mean if you said it.
I love it. That's so good. All right. Well, thank you guys for being on this evening. I look forward to seeing you and working with you again. I've seen Jil Anne many times. I've not seen DJ or Kevin in person, I don't believe, but I hope to get the opportunity to do
Yes.
that. So
I'll go to one of those
there's
meetups.
all kinds of opportunities to do so. And when you guys have, different events and things that are uplifting photographers, please reach out. I'd be happy to share your events with the people that I know. So with my list. So feel free to do that. And I look forward to that. Thank you guys for being here this evening. I'm going to let you guys go for now. And I'm going to talk about the upcoming shows, the next 3 shows that we have coming up. So thank you guys. You rock.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.
Guys.
Oh man, don't you just love panelists? They are fantastic. They're sharing their thoughts, their ideas, their experiences, and you may totally agree with them. You may not. You may see something that you've never heard of before. You may just be reinforcing things that you already know. But the fact that they come on, sharing their time, sacrificing something else, time with family, a job that they put aside to be able to do this, they are wonderful. They are fantastic. Give them a like, give them a love, or make a comment. Say thank you guys for being here. Go to the comments right now. Take a moment and thank our panelists for being here on the show this evening, because they are awesome and we really appreciate them. Now, as you guys know, every single week the Portrait Prophets show has a show. We've got something going on. All of our shows are at noon on Mondays, except for the one where we have a panel, and that's because it's just easier to get 3 people on at an evening time on a Monday than pretty much any other day. That's just a photography day that there's not a whole lot of jobs going on Monday evening, so it makes it relatively easy for me to bring people on. But our show is Mondays at noon, every Monday at noon, with the exception of the second Monday of each month. And so the next 3 all at noon. Let me bring on the banner for that. So 1 week from today, today's the 13th. Can you believe it's already the 20th? I mean, next week is Thanksgiving. I can't believe how fast things are going. Do you feel the same way? Whew, man. But November 20th, that's Monday, we're going to be talking about being recognized as an expert. Now, being recognized as an expert is an interesting thing, because we are an expert, but there are times when we feel like we are either not, or we're not being perceived that way, or there's times when we feel like we are experiencing that imposter syndrome. Man, we're going to eliminate that from your feelings, because it doesn't do anything to benefit you or your clients, those around you. Be recognized as an expert. That's on Monday, November 20th at noon. Put that on your calendar. It's right here in the same place we are watching this today. We are simulcast actually 8 different places, 5 different Facebook groups, 2 different YouTube channels, and 1 LinkedIn page. So there's several different people who are watching this right now at this time, and of course people who watch the replay afterwards. But 1 week from today, be recognized as an expert. And then 2 weeks after that, 1 week after Thanksgiving, this one is don't seek the seekers. Now, this is something that if you've been with me, if you've been in my classes, you'll hear me say this. And this is in reference to when you go to a Facebook page and someone is looking for a photographer, and they're saying, I'm looking for a senior portrait photographer, I'm looking for a family portrait photographer, I'm looking for Christmas minis, whatever it is. You'll notice that 10, 20, 30, 50, 80 photographers will put their name in the hat. Now, I don't have a problem with you doing that, but it is a red flag, because if you're doing your marketing right, you'll have so many clients, you won't have time for that kind of thing. I'm going to teach you how. On November 27th, you're just not going to need to seek the seekers anymore, because your marketing plan is going to be that good. November 27th at noon. Don't seek the seekers. All right. So, and then 1 week after that, we're doing that's December 4th. We're going to be doing what to do before the end of the year. Now, there's some certain things that need to be in place so that you have things wrapped up for this year and so that you're prepared for next year. You know that we've already talked about planning your 2024. We're going to be talking about that one more time before the end of this year, though, because not everybody's done it so far. I know some people wait, but I recommend to my students that you plan out your year in May of the year before. That doesn't mean you're completed with that plan. It just means that's when you begin it. And you will see some other things that I throw into there too that make your plan just that much better. But it's just a matter of once you've done it once, it's tweaking it for the next year. It makes it so much easier. So this is the things to wrap up 2023. What are the things that you need to do before the end of the year? That's December 4th at noon. Put that on your calendar. I hope to see you here. All right. So this has been, that is not what it has been. This is what it has been. Today, we discussed tips to improve sales. I hope you've gotten something out of this today that you can use, that you can move forward with. And if you need to reach out to one of the panelists, I'm sure each one of them is more than happy to give an ear and share their thoughts on their own. Just reach out. Nope. I haven't gotten permission to do that, but they all implied they'd be willing to help you. And of course, you know, that's what I do full time is help photographers out. And so reach out to me, Jim, at landersphotoschool.com, or you can take advantage of one of my coaching programs. Just reach out to me, Jim, at landersphotoschool.com. I want to thank you guys for being here today. You are fantastic. I appreciate you taking your time, sacrificing whatever it is that you're doing to be here this evening. I believe in each one of you. I think that every single one of you has the power, the potential inside of you to have whatever level of success that you deserve, whatever it is that you feel is right for you. And anything that's holding you back from that, a lot of it is self-imposed. I know you don't like hearing that, but I can help with that. It's what I do. So glad that you're here with me today, and I hope to see you next week on the Portrait Profit Show. Our fantastic panel of experts has shared their wealth of knowledge and experience, leaving us with lots of valuable insights and practical steps. We hope this evening's discussions have empowered you, inspired you. As you apply the tips that have been shared by the panelists, I hope your journey towards your definition of success is filled with creativity, fulfillment, and prosperity. Thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep capturing those beautiful moments. Thank you for dedicating your time and sacrificing other important things in your life to grow your knowledge on the business side of photography, because that is going to be how you achieve the success you deserve. Hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I look forward to watching you grow. For Landers Photography School and Digital Pro Lab, my name is Jim Landers, bringing you the weekly Portrait Profit Show with evolving content, awareness, and even fun as we unpack the mysteries of the business side of photography with tips and insights to help you with the struggles you deal with now, so you are constantly and consistently realigned to the path that leads to the success you deserve. Thank you for investing your time here on the Portrait Profit Show. I look forward to watching you grow. Bye for now. See you next week.